Tonight we have Jeanne Eppley, who will present Finding Hidden Ancestors, a Native American perspective. Eppley, also known as Snowflower, will explain why there are hidden Native American people and show how they can be identified in the genealogy. Jeanne lives in Columbus, Ohio. And knowing that one of her great-great-grandmothers was Native American 30 years ago, she began a search to identify her. Eppley, or Snowflower, began to collect information on ways to identify hidden natives. She continues to use this knowledge to assist others by speaking and giving seminars on how the research is done. Recently, she has taken a partner, Cheryl Eisel, who uses the name Bluecorn and will continue this work when Snowflower is no longer able. Cheryl's family is from the Charleston area. Snowflower is the author of My Family Tells a Story, as well as a CD titled Snowflower's Indian Genealogy Guide, which is an update to the book. She will have copies here at the front. Please welcome Jeanne.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here to talk to you tonight. I'm assuming that everyone here is here because they have been told the story in the family about their Native history, right? And are wondering how they go about finding it. When you start looking at your family, there are physical characteristics that you're going to look at to try to identify Native people. You're going to look for almond-shaped, slightly slanted eyes. There's an extra fold on the eyelid that makes the eye look sleepy or heavy. High white cheekbones, of course everybody knows about those. There's a melatonin or pigmentation in the back of the eye on the retina. It's a brown spot. And occasionally you'll have an optometrist or an ophthalmologist tell you that you have this spot. It's an indication of your ancestry. Shovel teeth. If you were to pull a tooth and lay it down, it would look like a shovel, a spade. Large front teeth are native. Larger than normal gap between the two front teeth. Large, long, heavy earlobes. The arm will be the same length from the shoulder to the elbow as from the wrist to the elbow. In some cases, you will also have the shorter length from the elbow to the shoulder, and you don't match to the waist like most people do. An inverted breastbone. It's often called a chicken breast. I had a grandson who used to play in the bathtub and make his own waterfall. He thought that was fun. Crooked fingers, especially the little finger. Little toes which lie underneath the other toe. A second toe which is longer than the big toe, and a wider than normal division between the big and second toe. Before European contact, Native trackers actually knew by the shape of the footprint what tribe the people they were tracking belonged to. You will look for common medical problems which are known to be more prevalent in Native people than any others. Alcoholism is the big one. Everybody knows about the drunken Indian. arthritis in any form, including fibromyalgia. Breast cancer is more common in women with Native ancestry than in the other populations. Diabetes. There's a blood subfactor which is common in Indians known as the Diego factor. Gallstones. Kidney problems, including stones. Lactose intolerance is native. We didn't have milk. We never developed antibodies to digest. Lazy eye. There's a thing called a Mongolian spot. It's a blue bruise-like spot at the base of the spine in a newborn baby. It normally disappears within the first year. However, there have been parents accused of child abuse because doctors found this spot. The nail shape is different, and the hands and the feet are usually smaller and narrower. Native people have narrow equestrian tubes, and I'm not pronouncing that correctly, I'm sorry, in the ears. There's a thing called aplasia of the esophagus, which is only known to occur in Native people. What happens is that the muscle, the lowest muscle in the esophagus becomes too strong, and a person can swallow 2 or 3 times and it will clench tight and not let you swallow anything else. People have been known to starve to death because they couldn't eat. There is sudden infant death syndrome is native. Natives usually have superior visual ability, especially when they're young. Thicker earwax. Thyroid problems, both hyper and hypo. Something called a ventricular parastole. It's a very rare heart arrhythmia, and they believe that it appears in descendants of the runners, the messengers who carried messages back and forth between villages. I have to change my notes. I used to do this without notes, but the older you get, oh well. In the period between 1830 and 1925, our ancestors left us silent messages on their tombstones. So walk in the cemeteries. You're going to look for acorns or oak leaves. They're Algonquin. Shawnee, Delaware, any Algonquin tribe. The hand pointing to heaven in either position is a Shawnee sign. Grape-like plants or leaves are choke cherries and they're Mohawk. Maple leaves are Mohawk. Sunflowers might represent a headdress. I had a friend when I first started really paying attention, who took me out to a cemetery and we took pictures of one of his ancestors' stones. And it was a sunflower, but there was a face in it. And he took it to his dad and he said, "Dad, this is strange looking sunflower here." And his dad started laughing and said, "Well, idiot, it's a headdress." Simple carvings which look like trees might be tobacco or ceremonial sage. Willow branches or willow trees are Iroquois in this area, usually Cherokee. I had it proposed, and I believe they're probably right, that the half willow or the bent over willow that you often see might indicate a half breed. The handshake or clasp hands is a Delaware symbol. What I forgot to tell you when I started this was why we're hidden, why our ancestors became a hidden people. So let's go back there. In 1830, the federal government passed the Removal Act. The Removal Act says, if you are an Indian person, you will go west of the Mississippi and be put on a reservation. So it was illegal to live east of the Mississippi River and be Indian. Our people knew that was coming, and many of them prepared for it. They did it by moving 100 miles down the road, west or south or north, but out of where they came from originally, changing their name, looking, acting, dressing white. The dark-skinned, black-haired Indian isn't necessarily an east of the Mississippi River Indian. We had red hair, we had blonde children, we had blonde, blue-eyed people, just like you see here today. This act was in effect until 1925, and that's why these grave markers become important. They're telling you who they are. So, do an ordinary genealogy just like anyone else would do, because in that period they're going to become white, black if they're dark-skinned, mulatto if they're coffee-colored. Ignore the indications. If great-grandma's story says she was native, trust it. It was illegal to be here and be native, remember that. In that case, what happened was that one child in each generation was picked to tell the story to. The quietest child, the one who did not talk, would be taken aside and the story told. Great-grandma was Cherokee. She was from North Carolina. Great-grandma was Shawnee. She was from up north. And so on. So you don't pay attention. You work back to that person. And you're going to take the time frame when they lived, the name that they used, and the date. And those you put together. Find a book about the county that they lived in. Read it carefully. In the front of every county I have ever read, every county book, it will tell you what Indian lived in that county. And almost always, that will be your people. We talked with a few people here tonight about doing DNA. I recommend that the only DNA you use is the Y DNA, which is the male factor. It has to be direct male line. So for you ladies, you need to find a brother or an uncle or a cousin who's a direct line. That will tell you what that line is. I recommend that you read every book you can get on your family names, not just the one with the Indian in it. You want to find that one first, but then look at the others. The blood attracts blood. So if one person's a native, there's going to be more native in your family. Read the books carefully. Step outside the box. And just because Grandma said doesn't necessarily mean that Grandma was telling everything she knew. This is a book about my family. It's called A Branch of the Green Tree. My grandmother was a green. This family moved from Berkeley County, West Virginia in 1798 to Ohio. The town is in Fairfield County, and it's Lancaster. At the time they moved there, it was Tarhee's town. Tarhee was a Wyandotte chief. There's a story on page 343 in this book that says, this is a story that Diademia Willison Green told her grandchildren. My husband bought the property that contained the Wyandotte village of Raccoon Town. Now we're talking before 1800 here. He took her to Raccoon Town and he left her there while he went back to Tarhee's town to harvest wheat. Of course, she said back to Lancaster. He was gone for 3 weeks. During that time, there were 3 Wyandotte men who constantly told her she was a widow. They don't want white men in their town, and they're going to kill her husband when he shows up. George comes home, and the Indians walk up to the porch. George walks out, and they take one look and say, "Oh no, Indian don't kill white man. Indian white man's friend." Do you see anything strange about that story? Diadema couldn't have been white. If they don't want white men in their town, they don't want white women either. They were going to kill George on sight, but suddenly they're white man's friend. George can't be white either. They'd have killed him. They said so for 3 weeks. I was the only one to pick that story out and say, wait a minute here, something's wrong. Watch your stories. You never know when Grandma might tell a little white lie. So, the other thing I have to tell you is once you've identified your people, be very careful. One of the things that you see all the time is, "Oh, I'm Shawnee. I want to join a Shawnee group." And you go out and you join something. Or, "Ah, I'm Cherokee. I'm going to find a Cherokee group and I'm going to be a member." Be very, very careful. There are books out there, all kinds, on every tribe. Get them out, find them, read them. They will tell you what's right. They will tell you what's wrong. Then, before you join a group, look very, very carefully at that group and be sure that they are doing things correctly. What's over here on the table is My Family Tells the Story, the book I wrote in 1996. There was, the information was so minor and so scattered and so hard to find that I wanted to do something to help people be able to kind of put it together. The CD is the update to the book that we put out in 2011. And there's much, much more information on the CD. If you decide that you would like to buy one for information, I recommend the CD. I really do. The book doesn't have nearly the information in it. Now, I would like to open the floor for questions. Anybody have any?
Is this mostly West Virginia Indians?
I'm talking about any Indian anywhere.
My great-great-grandmother was at Max, which is in the north.
Yes.
We have a picture of it,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know about it.
You're probably going to have to research the area where the Abenaki were.
In one of the magazine I found the chief, Abenaki chief up in Albert, Vermont,
Yes.
wanted to take over the whole area and make it a
Yes.
reservation. I have that article.
You need to look at, find where she was born and look at that particular area of Vermont. It's probably going to be Vermont. Or she will eventually, the family will eventually go back there.
Because I know my grandparents came from Canada, they were in Canada and came down through because they were French and
Yes. Mhm. Yeah,
then they
you're,
went to Vermont.
you're going to have to research that area.
Could I interject something there? Canada has fantastic records, even the Native women. They kept records on everything. The fur traders, their records in the churches there, their records are fantastic because they not only wrote down the information on the men, but the women and the children.
Oh, interesting.
I have a female Indian that married an Englishman back about 1785. At that time, how did they handle a marriage? I mean, would they have been married in a church with her being Indian?
Do you know if, what the religion was?
He was English.
Do,
That's all I know.
and if they're Quaker, that early the Quaker had records. Later on, when things kind of we got into fighting over property and stuff, they didn't have them, but you could check some of if they're Quaker, but you need to find out what religion.
Well, I only have her first name, so I have no idea who she is. But,
Where was she from?
I don't know. But I know that they started having children about 1787. First child was born in Maryland, and then they had about 3 more in Pennsylvania, and then they came here to Greenberg County, Cabell County. So, I mean, we don't know who she is. It's a brick wall, and I've looked for years.
If she's native, she may not have had a last name.
Oh, really?
One of the things that happened when we went into hiding, there were 2 groups of people who helped the can act like whites. They took them in, they helped to show them how to dress, they showed them how to cut their hair or style their hair or do whatever with it, and taught them a language. And that was the German Amish and the English Quaker. So that's probably she's Quaker. Or he's Quaker. But they kept records of who they married language up to a certain point. I would try it. Yes?
My great-great-grandmother, who is listed in Cherokee, her name was Maria Rosa Colony. She named her children Missouri Annie, Indiana Annie, Virginia Annie. She named one son George Washington. Now, my question is there a resource? I found it very interesting to read on this little flyer about you that black fox was really changed to white. Is there a resource you can go to look at last names or names to see possibly what they might have been changed into? I mean, or from, like Colony was probably changed from the name. I just wondered.
Not right offhand. Do you know anything?
There used to be a role on the internet that was mostly their native names, and a few of them had their white name with it, but they were so far and few, if you didn't know the native name, you wouldn't have gotten the white name either. It's very difficult, because if they went by the native names, it's like, there's a lot of stone burners up in Canada, and it's because their job was to gather stones for the fire, so they were called stone burner. And a lot of people got their native name from something like that.
Translated.
And yes. And then the Europeans, when they tried to translate a native name, they couldn't get the emphasis in the pronunciation, so they just came up with names for them. And really
They're supposed to be
butchered
from
them.
the Virginia area,
Where you're in Virginia.
Portsmouth area. So we wondered if maybe her family was from South Carolina, because it's right there.
Possibly, which,
And she's supposed to be Cherokee.
yeah, that probably was, if they're that close in that area, yeah.
So I wonder if I can research somewhere in South Carolina to try and get maybe that last name.
I read a lot of histories from that area.
Okay, so like library books about South Carolina
Mhm.
Native Americans.
Right. Yes.
Are your Greens part of the Williamson Green or the Irish family? I'm finding I have Greens. I went through the hunters. My grandmother told us that she was Cherokee, and she was a part Cherokee, of course, at this point. And her name was, her mother's name was Jeanne Eppley Adkins. So I traced the Adkins, and I found many Indians interbred with those, and I have the specific names and what is accepted. So that's a fun job. I'll tell you, I spent about 2 months tied up in Atkins and Indians. And so my grandmother said that I didn't find the Greens yet. I was still tied up in Atkins. And then I found the Green family. And one of my grandmother's stories was that the whites, when they got ready to march them on the Trail of Tears, and my grandmother told me that they were taught to read and write English by Methodist missionaries here on the East Coast, who would come through and taught them to read and write. And it was the best thing, she said, that ever happened to them. And they also, many of them became Christians, and they learned how to assimilate, which was the part that saved them. And she told me that when they went on the time, they asked them what their last name was when they went to march them. And they didn't have a last name that they could pronounce, so they called their family Greenback. So I looked for 30 years for the Greenback family. I didn't find the Greenback family. I did find the Greens. And then I just found recently on Ancestry, I found the Green one. And I went, okay. But I didn't find any connection. She was full of stuff. And my father went to reservation school in Oklahoma Territory through the 6th grade. Now, we have no paper proof, but he was a German Cherokee boy. And when they moved into town, when the railroad was coming through, no one invited him to any birthday parties. They called him the Breed. So my dad has always been the most gentle man, except everyone, you don't know who they are, you know what I'm saying. But he was very tall. His grandfather, the white grandfather, was 6'4" German mathematician who had come through from the railroad. And my Indian grandmothers had all married white to hide. So they were married into the whites, and when you married white, you became white on the census, and you are hidden away. So we know they're there, but you can't, there's no written proof. We just know who we are, and we know the story.
Right.
And then as I first went back, just this last 5 months, I've been really researching. My grandmother said, my Indian grandmother was named America Epley. Well, that was, you know, everybody named her George Washington, America, called him Soupy, you know the deal. So anyway, I found American Epley Hunter, the Hunter families. And then I did my sister-in-law's line and ran into Powhatan and got us, all of us, back to Jamestown. And it said the Atkins men got off the boats, lost their wives on the ships,
That
and
happened.
went right to the woods and started breeding with the Indians.
That happened.
So I mean,
Happened a lot.
we know the Indians. And the other thing on the DNA, I read that because we had Europeans coming here and interbreeding so much, even before, you know, we got to Jamestown, you can't get a good DNA sample unless you have an isolated tribe. I have crooked fingers, but we're a big mix, you know. But I think I have 5 Indian lines on different sides of the family, just little pieces here and there. But getting paper proof is almost impossible.
It is impossible.
Yes.
The only way to establish it is by putting together the date, the time, and the
Yeah.
name.
You
It's
think,
the only
oh,
way.
by the way, her other grandmother on the Hunter side was named America Evelyn Hunter. So we have America Evelyn Hunter and America Evelyn Atkins. So she was right. This is all oral. But when I found the Hunters, I went, here's the really the connection right here. Not that we didn't have it in the Atkins. But I found my sister-in-law all the way back to Powhatan. She was she's second sister off Pocahontas. And I mean, it's really interesting. But that's another interesting. I won't shut up.
No,
This has
great.
been fascinating. I mean, I've learned so much history, and I'm just so fascinated by it all.
It is, that's how, I got hooked.
Oh, I'm looking. The other thing too is that I related to everybody. I mean, everybody in this room, we're all probably related. We're just going like this. And we go back to Jamestown, and now I'm back to Kings, and we're all back there too, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a mess.
It happens.
You have to love everybody, because we all probably are related.
There are some giveaway names. George Washington's a big one, and then Thomas Jefferson. What they did when we went into hiding is take a famous white person and add their last name to it, whatever last name they've chosen. Because you meet these people and their children are Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington Riley. Well, they gotta be white. They're named for white people. In women, the American name is Huge and Mary. Mary Ann, Mary Jane, and they're usually called Polly. They will be native women. They will be.
I was in America, got my, and her sister was Amazon.
That's great.
Wayne County.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of weird names, just like you're saying.
Yeah.
Andrew Jackson, one, I'm not a big
Yeah.
believer.
Yeah. Exactly.
What about the story about Andrew Jackson's Attorney General
exactly.
So that's how we lost it.
Well, it's part of it.
Part of it. I know, just a piece. Pretty interesting piece.
Well, what was the doctor that was appointed to eliminate the birth records?
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And they actually had a degree of pigmentation in the skin that if you were lighter, then that designation you would classify as white. If you were darker than that designation, you were classified as black.
And if you were in between that little, you were mulatto.
I never could really understand the mulatto. I've got a grandfather that I think fell out of outer space. And I did run across something on that name, and over to the side was mulatto.
Mhm. That's your proof. You copied that record and where
Oh,
you
where
found
did I
it.
find it? That's it, I find things 3 o'clock in the morning in my brain. Already passed. But I can't remember, but going back to retrieving it is impossible. And you were kin to me.
Really? How? Which one?
Pavlovics?
Oh, yeah.
My,
Everybody's kin to Chief Alex.
Yeah, I actually,
Pavlovics. They were part of the Confederacy, though. They were a big tribe in the Confederacy, but my great-grand ancestor was the father of Pocahontas' mother.
There's a story about Charleston. And that's when they had their big roundups every year, and sometimes twice a year, I just read. The women would all come in, they'd all come in as villages, and he would pick out beautiful women from the different tribes, and he would have them sent to him over the year. And they would live with him until he impregnated the woman, and she had a child and weaned. Something happened to Pocahontas' mother, and we think she may have died in childbirth. So she was kept in this lodge, and people, whatever they lived in, probably a lodge. But he made sure, just like a king, by trading in Europe, they traded, he thought everybody had an allegiance, because now we're all related, I have to. So, it's very fascinating.
Right, and then as they married, they
They
were,
went back to their husbands many times.
oh, yeah, she was free then to go back.
Well, and when the Cherokee married, make your articles, and they can put them in on the please. So you'll see the Cherokee women marrying many husbands.
so the Shawnee were too. He just set all their things outside the wigwam, and he knew not to come in.
The Algonquins did some of this too, I remember studying it. Yeah.
Weren't these?
Yes.
Are there specific books that we should be looking at that we want to research more than others?
Once you know what tribe you're looking at, for the Cherokee, there's and I can't tell you the title, but James Moody wrote, it's a very large book on the Cherokee. You want to look at that. If you're Shawnee, we consider this to be the Bible, our Shawnee Bible. Shawnee, the ceremonialism of a Native American tribe and its cultural heritage.
Who writes about it?
Howard, James H. Howard. It's Ohio University Press. And he actually lived with all 3 branches of the Shawnee in Oklahoma. And there's a tremendous amount of information. You don't know it all, but you know enough to know when you're in a true group or a troop that isn't. And there are a lot of those out there. Anyone else have questions? Yes.
Well, I found a document at the courthouse in their minute book, and this one happened to be Cabell County in 1836, and it was where the family that was always listed as mulatto in the census had gone to the courthouse so that they could claim that they were white people. And so the judge ordered that they could be now considered white people. They had to bring people in and testify. So I'm assuming this is my Indian mind.
Yes,
Because it does clearly say that they are not either of them free Negroes or mulattoes, and that they are to be protected against penalties and disabilities imposed by law upon free Negroes and mulattoes. So the only thing left is Indian.
Right.
So,
right. Yes. Now, the thing about it is, if you have native in one line, you will find it in another.
yes, they intermarried with another family that ran through the census with them. They were neighbors with each other.
Mhm.
They were listed as mulattoes, as Hollies, Boltons, and Atkins. And they all
There you go
intermarried
with
with
the
each other.
Atkins. There.
Let me say something.
I totally forgot what I was going to say, so go ahead, please.
I have spoken with other genealogists about the Atkins family, and I have one from a third cousin from Casper, Wyoming, and he's Quaker. And his family was very prominent in helping the Indians years ago in the West when they went there. And he said he's a very gentle man, and he said to me, there were no Atkins who were Indians, because we had Atkins families who killed them. Okay, fine, I'm sure you did. But you also had Atkins who were marrying with the Indians. So you'll meet these people as you go on this journey. But I just push it aside. You know, I mean, it's there. You don't want to face it. What do you do about that?
That's, you can't, you can't. You will have members of your family who will swear that there's no way that family could possibly be Indian. No way. Because only one person was told. One of my favorite stories about my journey is that my great-great-grandmother, who was named Smith, I took the name in the hopes that I was honoring her by doing what I do. I'm having a bad day here. I started to tell you she was, her white name was Susanna Waldeman. And I found that out one day and decided she was from Greenville, Ohio. And decided to go there and see what I could find out about the Waldeman family. And I walked into the museum. Annie Oakley was also from Greenville, and so was Laurel Thomas, so this is a huge museum. And there's this big painting by Martin Waldeman. So of course, the paper comes out, and, you know, the notes start and take down all the information that's on the painting, and I walk into the next room, and there's 4 or 5 more. So I hit the office. At that time, the curator of the museum was Miss Tony. She was about this tall, little old white-haired lady, and a tractor behind her desk. She had to think I was totally freaked out. You know, like, this woman's nuts. Do you know, or can you tell me about Martin Waldeman? And she's like, well, he was a very famous local artist who died in the 60s. Are there any Walgemans left in the area? And she just picked up the phone, dialed a number, said, Nancy, this lady standing in my office you need to talk to. So I told Nancy what I was looking for and who my ancestor was, and she said, oh yeah, this is the right family, and her ancestor, Nancy, was Susanna's sister. She runs down the whole line, and I said, okay, what do you know about the Indian ancestry in the family? They read down. I said, well, that's not what my family says. No, can't possibly be, they're German. Check that family backwards and forwards, they are German. We argued back and forth for 3 months, and one day I got a phone call. I guess I owe you an apology. I said, oh, you found out, did you? She said, yeah. I was walking out of the museum today with an 80-year-old Wagaman descendant, and I said, well, this is the year of the Wagamans. Gotta do that family again. And she turned around and said, well, you do know we're Indian, don't you? She had known these people all her life, never been told. Took me walking in there with Grandpa's story. You'll find this over and over. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I just have an idea that has some Indian blood. My father was with the Barber family, it was in Bluestone River, and there was an Indian cemetery down there called Barber's Farm. And my dad had that finger and the heavy waxy ears. Of course, he denied any Indian anywhere, if you look at some of the characteristics. But it would Callaway be a name that they would give an Indian for a name? Because I have an ancestor, Callaway Barber.
Sure.
Does that sound like one? Callaway? Okay, because you said names tonight, that was the first name I thought of, was Callaway Barber.
A lot of the natives, they didn't have Christian names. They gave their children the strange names, Thomas Jefferson, just, America. Those were the names. They didn't pick Christian names unless they became Christian themselves. And then they were normally Marys and Anns, because I have a lot of those, but with no last names. So, yeah, a name that you wouldn't consider Christian is normally Native American.
Well, isn't last name Clan? That's what your name is, your clan. Am I right or wrong? I mean, that's how
no.
they're identified. When you find them, you know.
Kind of.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
Turtle Clan, but I'm not a turtle. I mean, my name is
Well,
not
what I'm
Turtle.
saying is that, I mean, that's the closest
Sometimes-
thing you come like to a last name.
Sometimes the family, if they're, the family did take the name of the father as their last name. So that did happen.
The clans were originally way back. They were females. But, that was a long, long time ago.
I want to respond to this lady here who was asking about the Callaway. I have two first cousins that have middle names of Callaway, and we know there's Indians in the family. It goes back to my great-great-grandmother on great-great-grandfather's side, and on my paternal grandfather's side. And I was just going to mention that they came to Pike County, Kentucky in 1884. And they only had one child. They had an infant child with them, and that was my grandfather. And his name was Luke Callaway Hamlin. And all the rest of their children, while they were in Pike County, Kentucky, were born in that county. And so my grandfathers, when they finally did the census, which was 2000, the year 2000, they had all of them being from Tennessee, the parents from Tennessee and the children from Tennessee. But we've had some interesting conversation. In fact, about 1968, I wrote all my dad's brothers and sisters and told them I wanted to try to research their family history. But I got letters back from every one of them, and except one, and that was Dad's brother, and he called, and but my dad's sister, who had long, black, straight hair, said, "Bob, I think you're gonna have some trouble." and then my dad's brother, who lived down in Moorhead, said, he said, "Bob," he said, "we may not even be Hamlins." And I said, "Well, I've already figured that laughing out. I'm just trying to find out who we are. And he said, well, I heard that we're Cars. And Cars, I think there's some Indians. that
There's the
name
name of the
Cars.
car family, definitely. There you go, Cameron.
The Dawes rolls, and then there's another rolls, isn't there?
The Miller. Go ahead.
Yes. When I was trying to research colony, I found only one colony, and I can't remember which one it was in, only one, was an Indian first name. And this colony spelled a little differently. Is there a chance that possibly, and I cannot find colonies spelled that way. They've been very, in Virginia, where I know that they were possibly South Carolina. Is there a possibility that could be who I'm looking for? And then, is there any way to go back further, or are we stopped at that?
You're probably stopped with it.
Okay.
Did I respond to that? What you have to try to do, best I can come to you, correct, is that you have to find in that place where you think they're from, you got to find out where they're from. You have to find in that place who has done some writing about Indians in that state, or in that area. And as soon as you find that name, you gotta do a genealogy on that person if they're dead. And you gotta get the books, you gotta get whatever books. I found out, and I forget where I got the information right now, but I went to the LDS folks out in Utah, and they had 5 books. Well, the information that I found that got me started on it was find out about the Hamlin Indians in action. And they listed 5 books that they had at the LDS in Utah. And I sent them that list that I had found. They sent me every one of them. Sent them to the local
Yeah, they will.
LDS church.
They will.
And I went up there and got them, and I can't remember now, they were just pamphlets, they weren't really books. And I can't remember now whether they let me take any of them out, I don't think they did,
You have to go
make
there
copies.
and read it.
I could make
Usually I
copies.
think you have 3 weeks to do
Yeah.
that research.
You have to go there and read it. Another thing that you can look at is the religion. If your family is Methodist, now this applies in Ohio and probably applies here. If they're Methodist, they're either going to be Shawnee or Wyandotte. The Methodist were missionaries to those 2 tribes. If they're Baptist, I believe it's Baptist, they're likely to be Cherokee, and a lot of Cherokee were Catholic.
We're Catholic.
So taking a look at, my family were primarily Shawnee, and they helped build Methodist churches all over Ohio.
My grandmother said that, well, this was way back, but that they were Methodist missionaries and they were in what is now Tennessee when these group came in. And then my grandmother's family moved down toward Georgia. Then they got caught up in the Trail of Tears and got marched across the upper Missouri River march. And they were
There was also more than one Trail of Tears. Most every eastern tribe has a story of the year that we cried. Anyone else have something? Yes.
The ancestor I'm looking at, never owned property.
It
And
was
does that
a-
include to?
It was was illegal to own property. What you'll normally find if it's a male ancestor, grandma will own the property. My grandmother owned the property. My grandmother was also Indian, but she didn't tell anybody.
Well, one of his sons, it was his wife that actually bought the property on, in Mercer County. The son himself didn't even buy the property. So I would think that would be a clue also that maybe there was Indian background as well.
Right. Right.
Because the men own nothing but their bow and arrow and their moccasins.
Is there anybody who might have Indian ancestry, whose ancestors did own property?
After the removal, when they were pretending to be white, they bought property and claimed to be white. Another clue to Native ancestry is the courthouses that burned down. In that period, let's face it, before that, you told them you were Indian, it didn't matter. And then the Removal Act came into effect, and you don't want them to know who you are, and you burned the courthouse. Burned the records. The courthouse in the county where I'm from burned twice. Yeah, that's another clue that you're looking at natives.
And a lot of natives also took identities of white people, Europeans. They found someone they liked, they took their identity. Or they did a raid and stole a family Bible and became that family. So they started burning down the courthouses, so none of that could be found out, that they had taken on this other persona. So that's why so many of them were burned down too, is they were really hiding.
You'll find what I call parallel families. You'll find, say, Joshua Morgan will be 36 years old and in the same county, close to the same people. You'll find Joshua Morgan who's 40. And he'll have a wife named Mary Jane, and the other one who's, say, 35, and the other one will have a wife named Mary Jane who's 38. And they will have children who are close to the same age, and all the children will have the same names, and it's very, very confusing to sort out who's who. But that's because one family's white, one family's native. And they're mimicking the families.
And you also find blood families. If one brother's family had really light skin and the other brother, they had dark skin, I have that in my family. Our Wilkinsons are that way. We're not related to the dark-skinned Wilkinsons, according to my mother. Even though she claims some of her cousins, oh yeah, they're my cousins. And I said, but Mom, they're the dark side. Oh, because I wasn't supposed to catch on to that. But they're all the same family. But if one could pass for white, they did, and the other one, oh no, we're not related to them. So that happened a lot too. And they might switch the name a little bit, like some of my Wilkinsons are I-N and some aren't. It's just, they just changed a few letters to make it different, so that they wouldn't be a family.
I have a story in my family. Go ahead.
This courthouse burns, was that a fact or was it a story to hide information? They did burn.
Yeah, they burned them to hide information, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Well, what about the 1820 census? It doesn't even exist.
It was destroyed.
It was destroyed, yes. Anyone else? I'll tell you the story about my family when she's talking about changing letters around. My maiden name is Needles, just like a sewing needle. And I come from a town which It was very small. There were 40 people in the graduating class. So, and I was related to them all. I decided when I was in the 9th or 10th grade that I had too many study halls. So I wanted to go work in the cafeteria. I'd get free lunch and get rid of the study hall because they're boring. And so I went to work in the cafeteria, and I was assigned to make bread and butter sandwiches with Mrs. Flossie Needles, Needels. And the brain's going 90 miles an hour, and one day I said, Mrs. Needles, don't you think it's a little strange that in this little bitty town, there are two families with the same name and that slight difference in spelling and they're not related? Do you suppose we are? Oh, no. No. We are not related, absolutely not. So I waited for Dad to come home from work. And I asked him about it, and he said, well, there was an ancestor named Archibald Needles, and he had 14 children by his first wife. When she died, she was a typical frontier woman. Now get that one, typical frontier woman. And when she died, he started courting a very, very proper English lady who frowned on his frontier children. So when he married her, the children disowned Daddy. And they did it by changing the E and the L around. The Needels is the original spelling. It happens. Sometimes a family feud, sometimes an argument, sometimes just because somebody didn't like somebody.
Was it common for the men to have 2 and 3 families?
Apparently in West Virginia it was.
She's making fun of me.
Well,
I had a great-grandfather that had a wife down on the Ohio River, and then came up here to Kanawha County and married my great-grandmother. Said his wife down there was dead, and her family said they were all dead up here, so.
And what? How long ago did you find the other family? It hasn't been that
It
long.
hasn't been that long, about 6 years. I found the other family. And they said, we thought y'all were dead.
Other tribes people from other tribes who didn't have anywhere else to go, and they came together and became the Melungeon people. There have been stories about the Melungeons that they're related to the Portuguese and blah, blah, blah. I don't believe any of that. They're a conglomerate tribe. One of the things that Melungeons have that other people don't is there's a ridge on the back of the head. Cheryl has it.
I have the ridge.
She's part Melungeon. And so if you find that ridge, you can bet you have Melungeon ancestors.
Some have it not, higher up, or the ridge at the base of the skull. I have the ridge.
That's why my mother called me pointed head.
Anyone else have a comment or a question?
Where did the Melungeons live?
They're all over in the mountains, yes. In Ohio, they were in Hancock County in a place called Carmel.
Kentucky.
They were in Kentucky. In West Virginia, they were often referred to as Guinea. The Guinea people, they're Melungeon here.
Tennessee was Hancock County.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in different areas. Anyone else? Yes.
I just wanted to say I was keen to
speak in Ohio. We do powwows. You can come to a powwow and talk to me.
But we're all glad you came to West Virginia. Well, truthfully, I have a great grandfather who was in Moundsville State Penitentiary, and I brought him his record. Not for this, not for today.
I have cards over here on the table with my email. Feel free to email me anyone, anytime. If there's anything I can help you with, any way I can steer you to another find, please feel free. Just put genealogy or information or something so that I open it. Okay, if no one else has any questions, then we'll close for tonight. Thank you very much for coming out. I hope I've given you some pointers. And please feel free to call or email for more. Yes.
If I can put together enough documentation to have one of these in my taxes. Now, I lost some of my line after I went back to a certain woman on the very same line, Bill Mayo. He's a historian. But how do you get those people to call? What I'd like to find out if I can just document up to that point where his lines and my lines are identical. Would that be enough?
Only way that you can get them to talk to you is take your information and go there. They won't talk to you on the telephone, and they will not answer a letter. You have to go face to face. They want to see you and know you.
Well, now I have text back and forth to them. But, I know that's the foreigner. And all my entire life I've been had an outside, and I'd like, before I leave here, I'd like to know I belong somewhere.
This information, incidentally, will not get you registered federal. The federal rolls are closed.
They're not even
And the casinos are open.
Yeah. So,
You're not gonna get it.
this will get you into an organization. We belong to a state-recognized tribe, and so far as I know, there's only one of those. The one,
They're
yeah.
recognized by Virginia. And
Well,
that's
there you are,
because
see.
Wayne Newton
If
went
they're-
in and testified before, and, but as far as federal recognition.
you will not ever get federal recognition. Those rolls are all closed. But a state-recognized tribe, you should be able to get in.
If I can put the documentation together, and that is, it's just like I was talking about my grandfather, I say that thing is not out of state. There is nothing on him.
Yeah, we have a few like that in our lines too. I think everyone does. Yeah. Thank you all again.
I would like to thank everybody for showing up tonight, and remember, we do have some upcoming lectures, and thank you very much. Jeanne does have some things over here that if you want to take a look through, you're welcome to. Thank you.
Oh, I do.